Namaste, and a very warm welcome to everyone at the conference this morning. I'd like to request you to please put your phones on silent as we proceed with the opening ceremony. The essence of IC3 for all of us involved is what I'd like to begin with. A quote that best conveys our experience and commitment is the one used by Abraham Lincoln in his famous Gettysburg Address. Quote, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people," unquote. This is exactly what you see, hear, feel at the IC3, bringing together stakeholders, schools, and universities in putting this conference, or rather the movement, together. And of course, at its heart, the students, their dreams, aspirations, and well-being.
So good morning and welcome to the 2018 annual IC3 conference. It's now my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, and of course co-MC for this morning's IC3 inauguration, Amrita Gulati. Amrita is the head of the Career Counseling Center at the Sri Ram School in Gurgaon. Her journey at TSRS started way back in 1989 as a student, and life seems to be nearing full circle, with her completing as many years now on the other side of the table. Amrita has been associated with IC3 since last year's conference as the convener for the host school committee, and this year around as co-chair for the content committee.
Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. And now bringing my co-MC, Jim, to the audience. Jim McLaughlin is the Associate Director of Freshman Admissions at Drexel University in Philadelphia. This is Jim's third IC3 conference. After leading the university outreach team ahead of last year's conference, he has had the pleasure of chairing the 2018 University Committee, comprised of 10 amazing higher education professionals from 5 different countries. Best wishes come to everyone at the conference from Jim's wife Maureen and son Miles, who are at home in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection.
Thank you so much, Amrita. Now, IC3 is a lot more than just an annual conference, and this you'll learn. It's a movement that comes from the heart, a movement that aspires to bring excellent school-based counseling to every student in India. And what we've discovered at the early stages of this journey is that we can't stop with India because the need exists globally. And to this end, IC3 held regional forums in 18 cities and 7 countries in 2018. And you can expect to see 30 regional forums across 11 countries next year in 2019. Now, to engage senior leaders at both universities and schools in affecting such change, IC3 held its second annual presidential forum yesterday at the Shiv Nadar School in Gurgaon, and it was a huge success. Not only does IC3 aspire to enhance professional networks between universities and schools, but it is also keenly focused on education and training resources to support school-based counseling. The IC3 Institute, launched this year, provides education and training for schools establishing counseling programs or those trying to improve delivery within an existing counseling unit. The IC3 Institute has set out to train 100,000 professionals over the next 15 years. Through these collective initiatives, the IC3 movement is changing the world. And in order to do that, the IC3 movement needs your expertise, your experience, and your active participation.
Seeking this togetherness in dispensing darkness and ignorance, leading towards knowledge and awakening, we would like to begin on an auspicious note with the lighting of the lamp.
And at this time, I would like to invite our honored guests to light the lamp. Dr. George Blumenthal, Chancellor, University of California, Santa Cruz. Karthik Krishnan, CEO, Britannica Group. Vineet Gupta, founder, Ashoka University. Dr. Shalini Advani, chair of the IC3 Advisory Committee. And Ganesh Kolhi, IC3 Conference Chair. Please join us.
Please join us. From what Jim shared with you earlier, the idea of IC3 that started with the support of a handful of Ganesh's friends has clearly grown to a much larger and stronger circle. Ganesh, how many Facebook friends do you have by now? You should check from 2016 to 2018.
He said 6, yeah.
We're really more than that. Maybe you missed a couple of zeros. Okay, so talking about Facebook, Jim, I saw this post on health by one of the popular and well-established hospitals, according to which sitting is the new smoking. And it seems like the audience sitting here will be sitting here for a while, and this is a non-smoking zone. Do you think we can do something about this?
I saw that post as well. I think it said sitting for 6 hours straight is equivalent to smoking 1 pack of cigarettes. So I started to do a little thinking. Now, I'm not a math expert, but I flew for about 15 hours to get here.
Whoa.
So now I'm really concerned. So maybe we should make some time for a little bit of physical movement. What do you think?
I think we should take this seriously. Okay, sure. So we will bear this in mind, and let's see how we manage this. Maybe have the audience stand up after every few minutes, and maybe in every few minutes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, so back to the conference now. Actually, our health is important for the conference, for the momentum, for the movement, the multiplying of numbers.
Yes, it is.
So coming back to the numbers, the momentum behind the IC3 is astounding. The first annual conference in 2016 welcomed 285 delegates. The next year we doubled to 543. And this year, yes, we have crossed 700. And we hope this number keeps multiplying in the years to come. Okay, so the first set of people who get to stand and stop smoking are the first timers. Can we have you stand where you are, please? Whoa, thank you. Thank you and welcome to the IC3 family.
Welcome.
At this moment, it's also important for me to thank and acknowledge our consistent participants who have been at the conference in 2016, 17, and are here today. Could I ask you to rise where you are, please? Thank you.
Now, during one of my very first visits to India, I learned the phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means, thank you. I was nervous about that. Which means the world is one family. Now, this idea, this feeling was always in my heart, and from that moment forward, I was able to put it into words. So now, as much of the world is looking inward, we are here, looking outward, thinking forward. We are here together. IC3 is a global movement, and it's spreading across the world. In 2016, IC3 had delegates from 12 countries. In 2017, we saw that number grow to 21 countries and territories. And this year, in 2018, we're at 28 countries and territories.
Wow.
And with that, I invite delegates to offer a friendly wave to the audience when their country or territory is recognized. Australia, Bangladesh, Canada, China, Finland,
Can you have the light on the audience? We can't see everyone from all the countries. Thank you.
Thanks, Amrita. Georgia, Germany, Hong Kong, Hungary, Indonesia, Japan, Mauritius, Nepal, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Oman, Qatar, Singapore, Spain, Sri Lanka, Switzerland, Thailand, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, the United States of America. Yes, I'll clap for that, yeah. Vietnam, and finally, India.
Thank you. At this stage, I think we can't move forward till we thank our host school family. I say the word family because IC3 has brought together some of the most leading schools to collaborate for this mission. I'd request you to stand and stop smoking in your places as I call out your names. DPS Ghaziabad, the Heritage School Rohini, Heritage Experiential Learning School Gurgaon, ITL Public School Dwarka, Modern School Vasant Vihar, Pathways World Schools, the Sri Ram Schools, Scottish High International School, Shiv Nadar Schools, Sant City School Gurgaon, and the Vasant Valley School. It's also important for us to recognize the contribution of the 18 schools that hosted the regional forums this year. Could I please request you to stand where you are so that we can acknowledge your commitment to the movement as well. Could we have all of you please stand, all the regional schools, all the regional forum schools, 18 schools.
Please stand as a group, yes.
Thank you.
Now, IC3 would not be possible without the tireless efforts of its committee members and leadership. Countless hours have been spent to take this movement forward. They've traveled the world with the IC3 message, truly. They've joined conference calls in the middle of the night. I can see, yes, many of you. They've created blog articles. They've even written IC3 poetry, and so much more. Their efforts are endless. Acknowledging their utmost dedication, I'd like to please ask all committee members to join us on the stage for a photograph when their name is called.
We do need to get this framed for the Rogues Gallery.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Now please note that not all committee members are physically present with us today, and I'd also ask that you please hold your applause until all names are called. So without further delay and in no particular order, I would like to recognize the following committee members. Dr. Shalini Advani, Pathways School, Noida. And if you could just please hold your applause till the end. Thanks, Amrita. Yeah, that would be great. So, yes, okay, wonderful. Dr. Harsha Ales, Gateway Group of Schools, Sri Lanka. Captain Rohit Bajaj, Pathways School, Gurgaon. Dr. Rajika Bandari, Institute of International Education. Shantanu Das, Sarala Birla Academy, Bangalore.
1 second, you said hold your applause.
Oh, I get it, I get it.
Hold your applause.
She kills me. Yeah. Thanks. Continuing on, Dr. Vinny Jauhari, Microsoft India. So now we're going like this. Karthik, Krishnan, Britannica Group. Rupkata Sarkar, La Martiniere School for Girls, Kolkata. Monica Sharma, the Sri Ram Schools. Lata Vaidyanathan, Terry Prakriti Schools. John Wilkerson, Indiana University. Over to you.
Lisa Jain, the College Board, India. Alexander Abraham Pathway School, Noida. Azma Ansari, the Daily College, Indore. Dr. S. Bhavani Shankar, Lalaji Memorial, Omega International School, Chennai. Devyani Bhatnagar, Sanskar School, Jaipur. Deblina Chakrabarti, Pathway School, Noida. Abhinav Gogoi, the Assam Valley School, Assam. Tiffany A. Gule, Oberoi International School. Shilpa Gupta, Nija Modi School, Jaipur. Bridget Herrera, American International School of Dhaka. Geeta Jayant, Legacy School, Bangalore. V. Karthikeyan, the Lawrence School, Lovedale. Kalpana Mohan, PNC Cognito School, Bangalore. Shivangi Panchal, Ahmedabad International School. Pragati Pandey, Aga Khan Academy, Hyderabad. Sudarshana Shukla, the Cathedral and John Connon School, Mumbai. Rachna Sippy, Dubai International Academy. Joe Towers, Jakarta Intercultural School. Pubudu Vijay Singhe, Gateway Colleges, Sri Lanka. Hemlata Yuvraj, Oak Ridge International School. Shikha Vij, Step by Step School. Jim McLaughlin, Drexel University.
Amrita Gulati, the Sri Ram Schools, Gurgaon. Arvind Vepa, University College, London. Christopher Kuplin, Queen's University. Sheena Mehta, IE University, London office. Jim Miller, NACAC past president, 2009 to 2012. Suin Uth, Ryerson University. Petra Orent, Franklin University, Switzerland. David Royster, Yale NUS, Singapore. Rag Singh, Northern Arizona University. Michelle Whittingham, University of California, Santa Cruz. Mahesh Yanambakam, University of Reading.
And
Ganesh Kohli, IC3 Conference Chair.
woo, okay, we must also thank the team behind the team who has worked tirelessly. Members of the IC3 team, Shrikant Iyengar, Ashka Vadalia. Where are you? Please stand where you are. Actually, you should be standing on the tables.
I think they're hiding, yeah.
Okay, maybe we get them to dance in the evening on the table. Okay.
So the IC3 movement would also not be possible without the support and contributions of all of our sponsors and partners. And our heartfelt gratitude goes to all of you. And I would like to offer special acknowledgement to the following. KIC Univassist host, Ashoka University. Ashoka University co-host. Bennett University, IC3 Awards sponsor. OP Jindal University, platinum sponsor. Now, we really can't give enough thanks to all of our sponsors. I mean, we would literally be here until 2019 IC3 if we were to call each by name. So please be sure to visit our sponsors and partners at their exhibition tables and booths. They truly are innovating in our field of education. So please join me in a big round of applause for all of our sponsors and partners. And now, it's my pleasure to have Mr. Vineet Gupta from co-host Ashoka University on stage for a few words. Vineet Gupta graduated from IIT Delhi in 1991 in mechanical engineering and is a first-generation entrepreneur who's built several companies over the last 25 years and currently serves as the education co-chair at PhD Chamber of Commerce. Vineet is a founder and trustee of Ashoka University. He's been involved with the Ashoka effort since 2007 and served as the founding pro-vice chancellor of the university from 2014 through 2017. Ashoka University is a philanthropic initiative founded by eminent business leaders and scholars and offers liberal education on par with the best in the world. Ashoka has been hailed as one of the most exciting initiatives in higher education today. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Vineet Gupta.
School counselors, school principals, university leaders, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ashoka University, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome you to IC3. IC3 is a movement that aims to transform counseling in our schools. And Ashoka, though a standalone institution, represents a movement that aims to transform the quality of higher education in India. I think questions like, do our children have access to the right advice? Are they taking the right decisions for their careers and their lives? Do they have access to a quality of education that helps unleash their potential? I think questions like these are especially relevant to us in India, where our higher education challenge is very distinctive and unique. With about 800 universities and 40,000 colleges, India, in fact, has the largest higher education infrastructure in the world today. We larger than US, we larger than China. Still, about 1 in 4 Indian students goes to college. That's about 25% of our students. The Western world is over 75%. China is a little over 50%. And countries like Korea, which have progressed outstandingly well in the last few decades, are over 90%. So clearly lots to be done. But I think where our challenge is also very distinctive is that we have a very large population which is very young. So while 1 in 4 go to college, we have the largest population in the age group of 10 to 19. And these are all students who will come up to go to college in the next 3 to 5 years. So we have twin challenges. We want to increase our enrollment ratio from 25% to higher, maybe 50%, let's say to start with. And our numbers, the numbers of a young population are also higher. So what this means is that even to transition from a 25% to a 40% in the next 10 years, we literally have to double our higher education infrastructure. So whatever we did in 70 years, we have to double that in the next 10. A huge challenge, but I think also a huge opportunity. I think we are perhaps one of the few countries in the world where so many higher education institutions are getting created. And I think these institutions have an opportunity to start ground up, to set up greenfield institutions that can really help define education in the 21st century. Unfortunately, our track record in higher education has not been great. We've had institutions run by the government and the private sector, and both have had their challenges. The government on governance and the private sector really on intent and a long-term view. I think it's here that institutions like Ashoka and many others that the host spoke of, I think they have an opportunity because they are created differently. And if you see, most of this happened in the last 7-8 years. I think these institutions and many more to come, I personally believe that there would be another 100 institutions like these which will come up in the next 20 years. And I think these institutions have an opportunity to redefine Indian higher education. I believe we are on the cusp of a revolution which probably I do hope, and I sincerely hope, that in 15, 20 years, India will be one country where students across the world want to come and be educated. And IC3 probably will be the platform where some of these students are counseled. It's been hugely inspiring and very, very motivating to see the IC3 movement come up. Ashoka has followed IC3 very closely. I think we're partners in the same mission. But what IC3 has made very possible is even for universities and schools to come together. They're not, I can't think of any other single platform that has enabled to do that. And universities and schools today are partners in the same mission. I've been outstandingly impressed by Ganesh's audacity and his vision. In fact, the IC3 Institute, which I'm also helping mentor, when he came up and said a couple of months ago that we want to train 100,000 counselors in the next 3 to 5 years, I thought he's joking. And I think when I really watched him unfold and reach out to schools and execute, I was truly inspired. I believe this is really the beginning. I want to welcome you again. I want to thank each and every participant who's traveled from within India and from outside to be here. Let us join hands and let us work together to help transform education in India and the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words, Vineet. Now, I'm very excited, honored, and humbled to introduce our next speaker, Ganesh Kohli, IC3 Conference Chair. Ganesh Kohli is a teacher and counselor who has founded, nurtured, and led multiple education-focused organizations over the last 20 years. An engineer by education, Ganesh started his career teaching math and helping families find the best fit education globally for his students. His journey has led him to visit over 450 universities, present workshops at 300 plus high schools, help 4,000 plus students with higher education decisions, and present at numerous global conferences. In 2015, Ganesh envisioned the IC3 movement to impact 175,000 high schools over the next 15 years. And serving as chair of IC3, Ganesh has helped to build that platform that is providing much needed focus on career and college counseling within schools. Now, like most of you, it didn't take long for me to realize that Ganesh is a pretty special guy. I haven't met anyone like him, in fact. Ganesh brings out the very best in people. He brings out the best in me, that's for sure. He brings out the best in all of us. And that fact becomes even more meaningful when I look around this room and I see that we're among some of the most talented, dedicated, and passionate international educators, counselors, and teachers in the world. You know, this international education thing can be pretty hard sometimes. Everyone here today who's spending time far away from home, from family, from loved ones, they're here because they believe in IC3. They're here because they believe in Ganesh. And even though Ganesh will tell you that IC3 is much bigger than he is, and it is, at the very early stage in the history of IC3, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we would not be here together for this purpose if it weren't for him. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to welcome to the stage my colleague, dear friend, mentor, and IC3 Conference Chair, Ganesh Kohli.
feels a lot of pressure. I'm very nervous now. And my ego's been massaged to the point that it's going to explode. Someone needs to put a pin there and I need to come back to Mother Earth because that's where we are all going to end up. Thank you for those kind words from so many different people. But the one thing that comes to my mind even as I begin speaking, and I know, Jim, we are running behind, we started 10 minutes late, so I'm going to earn you those 10 minutes. So let's see how we do it. That the fact that we have this room full of 700 people is really a function, is happened because there was no single individual that could do it. It was so many different people. If you've seen the IC3 pre-conference events in the last 2 days, there are hundreds of people, and there's a big secret with IC3. We first knocked the doors of the administrators and the government, and we tried to change things top down, and we learned a lesson that if you really want to change things and you want to see counseling in every school, you got to go bottom up. And that's really what we are doing right now. We are going to get folks in the hundreds of thousands scream so loudly at the bottom that the guys at the top will have to hear. And that's what IC3, this conference, is doing. I first wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you. Just by being here, you have emboldened us. You have really supported a mission which is unique. I am happy to call this whatever name you want. The name IC3 is not important. It could be Manika ma'am's conference. It could be Rohit Bajaj conference. It could be Jim McLaughlin conference. You give it CBACD conference. It doesn't matter. This is not about IC3. This is not about Ganesh. This is not about individuals involved. This is about young people who are not getting guidance in hundreds of thousands of schools, and stubborn educators that are not willing to listen that they have to change. If that does not happen, this exercise is futile. I spent many years going to conferences, feeling really good at the end of the 2-3 days, and nothing really changed in the lives of a lot of people. And the idea for us, as Jim said, is not to have IC3 be a platform that does not change things on the ground. And that's really what we are envisioning. And there are so many people who are responsible for that. Thank you is a very small 2 words for them. I cannot name the list of people. And I think it would do injustice if I named anybody except my wife, who is responsible. So while Ganesh, it's really Dr. Preeti who got a brash, angry man to stand here and be competent. You know, if I was a 2003 Ganesh, you wouldn't have been looking at me at all. You know, it is really her love and her ability to lead me on the path of meditation and mindfulness that allows me to have the strength to do what it is. And I have to tell you, I figured in a little bit that there's a lot of strength that you need to change a system. And it's really, inertia is a real serious problem in physics and in life. We aren't perfect. I ask for your forgiveness. We are courageous, we are childlike, and we want to learn from you. We are not the experts. We don't know how to host a conference. We don't know how to do this. We are not for glamorous events. I know how to counsel a kid. I know how to teach math. I know how to teach English. But we don't know, many of us that are involved with this, we just innocently ended up with IC3. Really. We did not intend to have a conference. I don't know how we are here in the Darbar Hall. I thought this was the flagship hall in the country, and I can't believe I'm speaking to some of the finest people in the world with such dignitaries and university leaders and school leaders, and I mean, just like I'm an engineer by accident, For me, this is really no more than just an accident that we're here today. It is just an intention that's brought us here. So over these next 2 days, if you're not comfortable with something, if we make mistakes, I ask for your forgiveness. Please forgive us. And we really don't mean ill. If a volunteer asked you, where's your name tag? Really, it's an innocent student is really doing his job. Please wear your name tag. We are afraid that you'll have gate crashers, which we did last year. So the volunteer is just doing his job. And I think it's so important that we acknowledge that we are really here to learn, and we would like to be humble and give us feedback, criticize us, but give us a chance. You know, don't judge us on just these 2 days. We'll do our best, and all the host schools have done such a fabulous job, and so have so many other people. But I want to just share my learnings. You know, this title, firstly, I have been saying in the last year I said in the committee meeting, we need to find a co-chair. We need to find the next chair. They just keep me on this now for 3 straight years. And this is a really difficult position, because I now realize that year 1, there was no problem. I was pleading and begging to people, please come. Year 2, there was no problem as well. I mean, we could manage it. But year 3, oh my goodness. I now know what a school principal in India feels when a politician calls up. मेरे बच्चे को एडमिशन मिल जाना चाहिए. आप नहीं तो देखो आपकी लाइट बंद कर देंगे हम. My goodness, I never imagined that IC3 will become a platform where Ganesh Kohli will be almost threatened. You don't allow me to come. And I said I was living my quiet life. What have I ended up in? There are times I really felt, why did I do this? Why am I the chair of this conference? Because everybody wanted to feel special. Everybody wanted something extra. And and we restricted this platform for full-time school delegates, full-time university delegates, and great organizational delegates who are supporting the mission. But there was so much more than the mission. And that is my biggest learning. If the student remains the focus, I was able to swallow some bitter pills through this last few months and not get despondent, because really, we've had too much commoditization with education and with students. We are trading in students. We are sending them here and there. You know, this is a global, it is a real problem. And I think we all have a role. Businesses have a role, universities have a role, high schools have a role. But any prudent business will say the customer is the focus, and that decisions have to be made based on what the needs of the customer is. And we were at Microsoft yesterday, and we were talking about humility and being able to take the focus back to the student is what we need. And therefore, my learning is, as the chair of the conference, not to succumb to pressure. Doesn't matter how grave it is, not to succumb to pressure. And we've really not been discretionary in the way we've run IC3. There's a governing body, we have a gatekeeper committee, and I am not making decisions. The thing is, I shield all the committees from all this talk, because I don't want people to go and question the gatekeeper committee on why this person was not allowed to participate in IC3. We don't want to exclude anybody. We love everybody. But right now, our focus and our mission is to empower high schools and to empower them to be able to guide their young people. And that doesn't mean that we disregard the high-quality work that a lot of organizations are doing. We have great respect for them, and we love them, and we will find ways to include you. But please, get that message out that we don't want to exclude anybody. It's just that we don't want to get distracted and end up a platform where more business is happening. More transactions are happening. More money is exchanging. I mean, that's fine. Let the business go on. But let's bring the focus back to the student. We have no membership at IC3. We have no other restrictions. We have 100 scholarships that we were willing to give out, and we got many of them taken. Our programs are almost free. The one-year institute program is free for school delegates. Our regional forum participation is free for school delegates. The annual conference here is $65 for a school delegate. That doesn't even cover the meals at the Taj. But we are not really here to do business. We like business people. I worked in the for-profit space and I continue to. And we appreciate, but with this platform, we want to maintain the sanctity and we want to make sure that we empower high schools to do what they really have to do. It's their responsibility, which is guiding young people. So, I just want to share something about, so many people have told me how unreal this is. Actually, Vineet said 3 to 5 years, but it's actually a 15-year goal of 100,000 counselors to be trained through the IC3 Institute and 176,000 schools to be precise that don't have career and college counseling that we've mapped. But everything, and we are trying to change that scenario, and my experience is that, and my readings and my practice says, everything starts just with a thought. Everything was once just a thought. Flying was a thought, and we had airplanes manifest. This room was a thought, a chair was a thought. We sat on the floor until a certain point in our evolution. Everything was just a thought. Ganesh Kohli was also just a thought. My parents thought they want to have a boy. I have 2 wonderful older sisters, but they somewhere wanted a boy, whatever it meant at that point in life. So I was just a thought. They must have, and what happens when you have a thought is you express the thought in words. So my parents must have said to each other, in Hindi, my father would have said to my mother, Aji, sunti ho? Abhi ek ladka hona chahiye. I'm guessing that's what she would have said in Hindi for those who understand Hindi. But the fact is, we think thoughts, we express them in words. So they expressed it in words to each other. And then they took some action. And here's the manifestation, Ganesh Kohli in front of you. So everything begins with just a thought. And if we want to see a different reality, we got to be thinking new thoughts. If we are thinking the same old thoughts, we are going to see the same reality every single day of our lives. So that is really what IC3 is about. We are thinking some thoughts, we are dreaming, but we're not scared of dreaming. If we don't train 100,000 and we only train 10,000, that's fine. But let's go for it. But we want to see a new order with the way transition happens from high school to university. And that will bring a new order within schools. It will bring a new order also for universities, in a sense that they'll have inspired, motivated students who did not end up there by accident, who really chose to go to those universities. And, I love this man because I've fallen in love with him over the last couple of years. Alvin Toffler, he wrote a book called Future Shock in 1970, and he said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write. The illiterate of the 21st century will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I'm taken back to the verse, the 76th verse from the Tao Te Ching, because I have read it at both the last 2 conferences. And I want to remind myself, really, which is why I read this. But this is the book by Wayne Dyer, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And the 76th verse is something that I've read 2 conferences in a row. And it so aligns with what Alvin Toffler said. The 76th verse for you. A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. All things, including the grass and trees, are soft and pliable in life, dry and brittle in death. Stiffness is thus a companion of death, flexibility a companion of life. An army that cannot yield will be defeated. A tree that cannot bend will crack in the wind. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. Our ability to unlearn, our ability to give up what we know, put it aside for moments in our history, in our life, and to be able to look at a new reality is what we need to change this landscape. And we need lots of help. So I'd invite you to go to the IC3 Pavilion and help with in whatever way you can. I think it would be invaluable to have your help. You can volunteer with this movement. This is not about individuals. This is really about a lot of people coming together. And we'll have some really big and important announcements at the closing of the conference, as well as at the awards. There are some phenomenal accomplishments, but also the future, how we're going to realize this future, what we're planning to do in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year. How do we envision this 15-year plan materialize and manifest? I think this is something that we will talk about. So I'd want to make sure all of us are there tomorrow at from 3:30 to 5 as we discuss this. And we'll also talk about how you can get more involved with this movement. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just something very meaningful that I've learned from you is the power of declaration. So we are at 700. Thank you for leading us with that vision. And I hope we all dare to dream, imagine, have those thoughts that will manifest in reality. I now take the pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning, Karthik Krishnan. Karthik is the global CEO of the Britannica Group, which includes Encyclopedia Britannica, Merriam-Webster, Britannica Knowledge Systems, and Melingo. Karthik and his team are committed to transforming learning across the world, both inside and outside the classrooms. Karthik is actively involved in social transformation efforts. He was involved with the William J. Clinton Foundation and was recognized by former President Clinton for his leadership in helping small businesses in New York. He's currently on the board of a nonprofit focused on transforming the lives of people in public housing in New York City through job training, financial fitness, and college education. In his free time, he's an adjunct professor at his alma mater, the New York University Stern School. Karthik, could I have you here to address the audience, please?
We live in a world that's both exciting and excruciating on the same breath. Why is this world so exciting? This small device that we all have in our pockets allows us to do things which not so long ago we thought were only possible in the movies. With this little device, I'm able to FaceTime a loved one that sits all the way across the world. I'm able to order pizzas from the comforts of my home. Ultimately, for me to get to this conference, I'm able to order a car service and precisely identify what time that person is going to show up and when I'm going to get here. We all feel like James Bond. But the fact that James Bond had to go retro in his last movie because technology ceases to amaze us today, that is the true world that we live in. Technology has definitely changed our lives in a big way. But the most important thing is we are barely getting started. I can't wait to see what this world is going to look like when we have artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, gene therapy transform our lives. On the same breath, what's happening is the pace of change that we're seeing today is nothing like anything humankind has seen ever before. The pace dwarfs everything that we've seen in the last 2 centuries. Tech, in a number of cases, is also changing so fast that people are finding it really hard for people to comprehend, adopt, and implement. Think about the number of technologies that we've put into the school system. Before we could realize value, things change. That's one problem. The second problem is we also have technology which has been implemented, but we do not know about the implications or the impact of those technologies until we see the results. We saw the results from Cambridge Analytica and the elections. We had technology, we had an impact, and we didn't realize what that impact was until after things have happened. So technology is great because it creates exciting possibilities at the same time, we also need to understand technology better so that we can leverage it better to make a bigger impact. Let's figure out what is driving all this transformation. As we all know, the internet has been a key driver of technology. And why especially the internet? What is so special and specific about it? There are three key factors. The first factor is that the internet has democratized information. Think about it. 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I was studying, I used to go to a library to read about things. I used to speak to experts. I also went to a friend's house because he had access to things like Britannica, which I could not afford as I was growing up. But today, you could sit in any corner of the world and have access to information on this little device that we have here today. It's amazing. Think about kids in rural areas. They now have access to something better than what they were able to afford in the past. The second piece that has happened is the speed at which information flows. We've come a long way from telegrams to telephones to Twitter. It's a big transformation. Information moves instantaneously. As we're talking about these things, we have the opportunity to disseminate that information in lightning speed. Third, we have been able to connect the world in multiple ways. Never before we've actually been one world. Ideas translate across the world in one corner and find the far-reaching corners of this world. All this has an impact. What is it? The barriers to entry have gone down very significantly. Previously, if each of us had to start a business, it would take a lot of investments. With the internet, our ability to create products and solutions has gone up very significantly. More importantly, instantaneously, we have access to a global market. You could be sitting in any corner of the world and reaching out and serving populations all across the world. That is the power of the internet. So here, when you look at it, this has resulted in what is called hypercompetition. If you look at the graph here on the right, what you find is the adoption rate on the y-axis, and you also have the new technologies that have evolved over the last century and the early part of the century. As you look at this graph, what you will find is that in the far right, you have more newer technology coming in the last 10 years, but more importantly, there is no longer an adoption curve. It's an adoption rocket. Look at those lines at the end. They're all vertical lines. Any new technology is getting embraced so fast, and adoption is so high. This is what is driving the changes that we're seeing today. The flip side to this is the internet is now flooded with information. Today, everyone can be a publisher. We all go online, we post information, we create information. The second factor is that there is also zero cost of actually distributing that content across the world. Why are these two factors really important? That's because the rate of information growth on the internet is reaching unprecedented levels today. Previously, when you did a search or you were looking for information, you had to go to a library and you had very scarce information. There was paucity of information. But with the internet floodgates opening up today, there is way too much information. You do a search on any given topic, and you find millions of results. We don't have the time today to go over and pour through each of those search results to really make sense of what is valuable and what is not. That is the world that we live in. This is also changing. The other factor here is, in the last 10 years, you can see that from 2010 to 2020, the amount of data that's going on the internet is going to increase 50-fold. This is the flood of information that's out there. With so much of information, where we've gone from paucity of information to too much information, technology is struggling to keep up with. Our user behavior is changing. Previously, people used to do a search, go back and look at multiple search results before they really made a decision about what they needed to do. But unfortunately today, we live in a world where we are hit by information 24/7. So when we go online, what we end up doing is we stick to the first 3 answers that shows up on the internet. 90% of the people stick to the first page of the search engine's results page. In fact, there is a meme on the internet that says the best place to bury a dead body is on the second page of the internet because nobody goes there. How many of you have been there? So in this world, what is happening is people are walking away with an answer, which may or may not be true. That really puts us at risk, the evolution of human knowledge. Given this particular factor, instead of using technology as an enabler, we are starting to use technology as a crutch to help us make those decisions. We are letting technology drive us as opposed to using technology to make the decisions that we need to make much more effectively. I'm going to share 2 examples of how technology has put us down in a path, and this is from the last 2 weeks. Recently, there was a statue that has been sitting in Russia for the last 6 years and was supposed to be of an architect who helped design that urban system. A few weeks ago, they found out that that person is not the architect. It happens to be a chemist from Glasgow. For those of you from Glasgow, you should be happy that you've actually made inroads into Russia. But guess what? If you look at that article, the person says, I expected the internet to give me the right answer. Second example, which is not too far away from home, West Bengal. I don't know how many of you have seen this article. In a textbook that's being provided in a classroom, we had a picture of Farhan Akhtar, who played the role of Milka Singh, depicted in that textbook as Milka Singh. These are just examples of knowledge dilution. By walking away with an answer and not seeking to find the right answer, we are putting ourselves in harm's way. Ultimately, we are so preoccupied these days that we let technology choose the right path for us. How many of you have heard stories about people using GPS and ending up in lakes and falling off of cliffs? It's happening more often than we think. That is reality. So our goal is to really understand that the truth is out there, and we still as humans have to seek it and find it. So there are a few other things that we need to understand about technology. Technology is an amazing tool that helps us improve our productivity and effectiveness. At the same time, we have to understand search engine algorithms today cannot make a differentiation between good content and plausible content. Search engines were designed for a research world. How many of you have been researchers here? Good number of you. What happens in research is there is peer review. Before you publish anything, it gets peer reviewed and it goes on. Most of the search engine technologies that we have today was based off that model. You can use citation as a value of that research. But when it comes to the internet, as I said, each one of us here is a publisher. So at that point, citation doesn't mean anything. Popularity takes over. It's not the value of information. So let's not confuse relevant information with right information. Search engines provide relevance, but we always have to validate it to say, is that information right? The second thing is with user-generated content. As you know, user-generated content can be right today, wrong tomorrow, because there are multiple factions, warring factions, that are fighting over each other to change information out there, because they're trying to create an alternative universe that doesn't align with what reality is. That's the world that we live in today. In this context, it is also important for us to know there was an MIT research that was done, and the findings were false information has a 70% higher chance of getting circulated on the internet than good information. So if you're using citation or popularity as an index, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to have bad information circulate across the internet, and ultimately they will show up in search engines, social media sites, and all other channels that we use today to consume information and convert that into knowledge. This is a clear and present danger. If we think this is scary, it gets scarier. What is the goal of technology today? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves. Is the goal of technology to help us or to hook us? Silicon Valley has spent a good chunk of time talking about this concept called brain hacking. How many of you have heard that term? Very few. What this means is, how do you find programmable methods to hijack people's mind to form habits? Why is this important? Because we all live in what is called an attention economy. With the internet, the competition is just one click away. You can actually move from one site to another. So ultimately, for me to have, or as a business to have an impact, you want to make sure that people are sticking to your products and services. So the goal of technology today is to figure out how do we get people to come back again and again? How do we make sure that people make one more click? That is the mindset at which we are operating. There was this research that was published as well that said, if you stay away from your phone for about 15 minutes, what happens? Our cortisol levels start to shoot up, creating anxiety. What's happening in the world? Am I missing something? We are being subjected to all these kinds of emotions. So this means, you know what? I feel compelled. Now I left my phone here. I'm like, where's my phone? I found it. I feel better. More importantly, there is also a carrot. Every time you get a like on Facebook or Instagram, dopamine gets secreted, which means we feel excited. Dopamine is the same hormone that also creates addiction. When you smoke a cigar, when you have alcohol. So the same things that have actually, we as humans have tried to stay away are being put into technology in ways that creates an addiction. These are things that we need to understand and learn. It's not wrong that technology is doing all these things. It has a purpose. But we also need to understand the limitations of technology. So let's start thinking about cognitive thinking, which is the very reason why we are humans and we've been able to evolve over the years. Cognitive thinking develops when we start storing random information. As you walk through the day, listen to different presentations, there are certain points that are going to resonate with your mind, and you'll actually start storing all this information. When you go back and have a good night's sleep, the brain works to make linkages between all these random information that you've collected over the day. And that is pretty much the source of cognitive thinking. Luckily for us, the brain has enough place to store all this information. But what's happening? Today, we use the internet as our external hard drive. How many of you even remember your own children's phone numbers today? I wouldn't be surprised. We store less and less information in our brains today. Second is, what's happening? How many of you are getting at least 8 hours of sleep? Very few hands. So we're basically burning candles at both ends. We are storing less and less information, and even when we store information, it might not be the right information because you got an answer from the internet, and we're sleeping less. All these things affect our ability to think cognitively. When that happens, when information is presented to you, we are losing our ability to distinguish between good information and bad information. If we only spent 5 seconds to think about it, the answer would be obvious. And we would actually differentiate between good information and fake information. Is that what's happening today? Clearly not. This information also says that, smarter phone, weaker minds. As the phone's proximity increases, brain's power decreases. This is something we all as educators need to be very cognizant of. Ultimately, this picture gets even scarier. How many of you know about the Stanford question answer database? Just one person in the audience. This is the golden test for artificial intelligence. In January of this year, for the first time, computer comprehension exceeded humans' comprehension. A lot of people came out and said that that study was not done right. But here's the most important factor. If one computer gets a certain skill or a capability, it's very easy to translate that capability across all the devices in the world. Think about it. There might be somebody here in this audience with a special skill. If you have a special skill and you're trying to translate that to 7 billion people on the earth, it's not even feasible. So here's what's happening. Computers are getting smarter. Humans have the potential to be cognitive and even smarter than computers. But unfortunately, the way we've been using technology as a crutch, our cognitive intelligence is going down. So we're basically burning candles at both ends. And that's not a great sign. So the question I have for all of us as educators is, if computers are getting smarter and humans are losing their cognitive edge, how are we really going to compete against machines in the future? Because the children that go to school today have to compete more for jobs with technology. And how are we going to enable that generation to be successful? This is the most important factor that we need to be thinking about. So the burning question is, we are nation builders. The impact a teacher has, an educator has, whether in terms of helping them learn, inspiring curiosity, and instilling the joy of learning, or as a career counselor, helping them go down the right path where you are building skills that align with your interests to make an impact, we need to help them. But how are we going to help the next generation of students, particularly in a world that is going to be volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous? That's the million-dollar question that we all have. What can we do? First off, I request all of us to start thinking about how do you stem the knowledge dilution. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a small step, and it better be a step in the right direction. Simple things that we can do to raise awareness within the school system to talk about knowledge dilution. Intellectual laziness, which is sticking to the first result that you get and putting it in your homework and submitting it, as opposed to doing intelligent research and learning more. That's a step one. The second is, how do we educate our students on going to trusted pieces of information? It might not be easy to find, but guess what? The internet makes it easier. All it takes is 2 or 3 extra clicks to get to that information. Because guess what? The truth is out there. We have to find it. You don't have to go to a library. You don't have to find an expert, right? They're all out there. But let's go out and proactively seek them. Our goal is to create curious students and build intellects. That's the first step. The second one is, when you're having conversations with your student, ask them about different articles. Who wrote the article? What do you think was that person's purpose? What are they trying to do? These are simple questions that we've been taught for generations. All we need to do is ask these questions, and the answer will reveal itself. And more importantly, for those of us in India, we know there are the 3 monkeys. We are basically littering on the internet. How can you prevent bad information from going there in the first place? That really helps us get to the root cause of the problem. Ultimately, now, once you've stopped that knowledge dilution, let's start thinking about what are the kinds of competencies that students need to acquire to really be successful in a world that's emerging. 1, creativity. The goal for us is to fall in love with the problem. I'm repeating that again. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Because there are multiple ways to solve it, and as technology evolves, there might be better ways to solve that problem. So make sure that our children understand the need to be creative by understanding the problem and finding 20 different ways to solve for these things. Second, curiosity. Humans have evolved and progressed for one reason. We've always been curious. We wanted to know what's outside in the world around us, right? The Egyptians were sitting there and staring into the space to really understand the worlds beyond where we live today. Curiosity is another aspect. 3, I'm using the word connecting and not communicating. Communication is sharing information. Connecting goes beyond just throwing words at people. It's about linking with their mind and their heart. Connecting and collaborating is another key skill that students need to develop so that we can compete much more effectively against machines. And more importantly, we need to bring nations together. That happens when you're able to connect and collaborate. The last one is critical thinking. Ultimately, we have to be in a position to question everything that we see. When Copernicus said the world is not flat and it's round, guess what? People didn't believe in him. It took him 100 years to find somebody like Galileo to support that theory. But today, with the internet, we can find support for each of us all across the planet. All we need is to have people who are interested in doing the right thing, pushing us all in the right direction. So the question I have for ourselves, it's a rhetorical question. Do our school systems today impart these kinds of skills and traits? It was Albert Einstein that said, it's a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. If this was true almost 100 years ago, it can be truer now. So what do we need to do? We need to have a paradigm shift, going from mass production of students to mass customization of students. How do we really take technology and move away from conforming and making every student think alike and making them test-taking machines to people who experience learning? How do you instill the joy of learning? How do you invoke curiosity? Luckily for us, technology allows us to do it today. You could use project-based learning to really make people collaborate, come up with unique solutions. You also have technologies that allow you to personalize learning. Today, we promote people based on their age. But if somebody has a little bit of a difficulty, does it make sense for us to actually personalize learning for them? Can they learn in an environment that is different from a school setting? All those things are possible because technology allows us to do that. Ultimately, here's a slide that captures it really well. Personalized learning is tailoring learning needs for students based on their strengths, needs, and interests. If you could just anchor on those things, what are the needs? What are their students' interests? Does everybody have to be an engineer? Does everybody have to be a doctor? And that's where career counseling and having all these different pathways open to people is so critical for us. I think Ganesh talked about words, thoughts, actions, and impact. Here's a man who captures it really well, Jack Fresco. He said, "While we cannot predict the future, we will most surely live it. Every action and decision we take or do not ripples into the future." For the first time, we have the capability, the technology, and the knowledge to direct those ripples. And who do you think is going to direct those ripples? It's people like us, the educators, the counselors who are trying to make a big impact. So in this case, I think it's important for each of us to join hands to make a difference. Because as educators, we have an oversized impact on what can happen not only today, but into the future. You have the opportunity to get into the minds of every person in your classroom and influence their thinking. That is the power. So with that said, all is not lost. Even with all this technological advancement, the human brain has much more memory and computational power compared to any machine that we've created so far. Just to put this in context, IBM Watson still hasn't reached the level of a rat brain. That's according to research, right? So the human mind has amazing potential, and we need to unlock it. Transforming education is not an easy journey. Nevertheless, we all need to commit and make it happen, because the future of human progress depends on the actions that we take today. Let us join hands to break the shackles that are holding us back. Let us blend the best of what the traditional education system has to offer and what new technology has to offer, and create learning. I'm not using the word education, create a learning experience that students love, and in the process, we end up creating thinkers, learners, and people who can continuously evolve. We do not know what this world is going to throw at us 5 years from now or 10 years from now. But what we sure do know is, if you can inculcate into students the ability to think, learn, and evolve, no matter what the world throws at us, we will be in a better position to make a bigger impact. Thank you.
I'm not trying to think about how many emails I just got during that period. Thank you so much, Karthik. I think what I'm going to take from that is connecting. The next 2 days, just being here, really trying to focus on being present. Now, IC3 is pleased to collaborate with content partner, the Institute of International Education, to share a special edition of the report, A World on the Move, here at the 2018 Annual IC Conference. Prepared by IIE, the report incorporates useful data and information from the Open Doors Report, Project Atlas, and other key sources of global education statistics. It captures recent developments in the field of international higher education and current trends in global student mobility. The report highlights that despite constant change in world dynamics, the demand for an international education is consistently on the rise and expected to increase. And we invite Ganesh Kohli, Vivek Bansukani, head of IIE in India, to please come to the stage. We also would like to invite Dr. Shalini Advani, along with Ganesh and Vivek, to unveil the report. And later today, we will share a link via email with all of you so you can access the special edition of this report via the web.
And now back to these 2 days. What to expect, what to look forward to. So there are going to be 40 plus sessions with over 100 speakers from all over the world. And in true school style, I bring to you some of the do's. Connect, make some new friends, don't stick to your comfort, aim at making 10 new friends at the conference. Sorry, Karthik, use the app to connect with people if that helps. Keep track of time. Get to class 5 minutes before the session begins. You'll get a good seat. Keep your lanyards on. No meals without the lanyard, please. Session presenters, please leave time for Q&A. Use the network breaks. So we've actually created time to connect without the phone as well. Go and meet the sponsors at the tables. See how they can help you in your roles, and you can collaborate forward. For the high school exhibits later in the day today, there will be a table designated to each school. Please get to the table 5 minutes before to set up in time. Keep your school profiles and your cards ready. University folks will be visiting you to know more about your school.
And of course, at the university exhibits, it will be in reverse. Each university will set up a table, and the high school delegates will go around the room and collect information for their students. So please be sure to keep enough business cards for the event. And when you enter the room, the names will be arranged by country and in alphabetical order. There will be student volunteers to help you find your table if there's any confusion. We do have a lot of delegates here. For the fairs, we are under a pretty tight time constraint because some of those setups do need to be changed. So after the fairs, do your best to exit that space as quickly as possible. And ultimately, remember, we are here to encourage and empower schools to have a robust counseling setup in-house. So use the IC3 platform to get that training and support.
So over this last hour, we've heard a lot of what's grown, what's changing, what we don't know, what we are not in for, what we may not be prepared for. A little unnerving, but what's not going to change and what is going to remain consistent is the responsibility and the power vested in us as schools, universities, and the IC3 movement to shape the world of tomorrow. This is going to be apparent in the sessions that you will attend today and tomorrow. Thank you for being here, and look forward to 2 days of a lot of learning, a lot of connecting, and a lot of involvement. Thank you very much. Namaste and welcome once again.